my name is Greg. I'm customer service with Elevator Equipment Corporation. In today's video, we're going to go over assembly and field dressing instructions for EECO's multi-piece piston joints. You want to start by getting all your equipment and supplies together for the process. Starting with safety glasses, make sure you do have your safety glasses. Got some rags for cleanup of your threads and final cleanup after everything's done. You're going to need a bronze bristle brush or something similar to clean out your threads on your coupling and your female half. Just make sure there's no debris in your threads. You're going to need a dead blow hammer, big block of wood even, on your piston clamp wrench. Once we get that hand tight, then we're going to put a final tightening onto it with that. Just a good wrap. Some white lithium grease in this can. It doesn't have to be white lithium grease. It can be just hydraulic oil or 30 weight oil, anything to lubricate your O-ring and your threads. Got a mill bastard file here. It's a fine cut file. You want something that's big enough to get the job done, but yet not leaving coarse scratches. And then you need a wire brush to make sure that you don't have any debris left in your file, which you can put worse scratches on your piston surface if it has a lodged chip. Then you've got a selection of sandpaper, 80 grit, 120 grit, 220 grit. We've even got up to 400 grit here, followed by 3M Scotch-Brite type pad. There's different ways to get a 15 to 20 RMS finish is what we're shooting for on that. That's what the rest of the piston is finished at. But you can take a used 180 to get that, followed by Scotch-Brite, or you can take a 220 grit, followed by Scotch-Brite. But you can check the finish visually and with your fingernails or whatever to match your surrounding surface. When you look at one of our male ends of one of our pistons, what you're seeing is one half of the coupling that's involved in this. The other half has already been permatexed into the end that we've sent from the factory that way. We've got an O-ring on it already. You'll want to make sure that your O-ring is in place on the piece that you're getting ready to put together. The O-ring groove is not the one right below the threads. That's just a thread relief groove. The next groove down is the O-ring groove. The other portion of this is what feeds into the open section at the end of your female half of your joint. So we verified that the O-ring is in place on these. We want to make sure that the joint number is stamped on top of this joint. We're going to assume that this is the bottom section. That's your first piece, and this will say joint 1 up on top of this piston coupling. If you had a multi-piece jack, well, more than 2 pieces, your center would say 2 up on the other section on the male end of that coupling. If you had a 5-piece job, they're going to be labeled 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, so forth and so on for however many sections you have. But you're always going to be starting with your bottom section, so that's the way we've got those numbered. So we're wanting to go over the actual cleaning of the threads. You want to make sure that you use your bronze bristle brush, go through all of them, visually check, wipe the entire piston coupling down, make sure that there's nothing involved stuck in the threads at all, because you don't want anything down against it once you put it together. Clean the female half of the joint now. In this case here, we're doing a test piece basically for this video, but you probably be using a chain hoist to hold it up in the air. But you want to make sure you use the bronze brush. Clean your threads completely. Make sure there's no debris or anything stuck into the threads. Use a good clean rag. Wipe it completely down inside, and then make sure that you can see it. Get a light up in there and make sure that you don't see anything in those threads. Make sure to wipe the face of the joint off. And then next we're going to grease the threads on the male's half of the joint. As you come up on your O-ring, you'll have a little bit of resistance there because it's squeezing up into the piston. And as you do that, you'll want to look across the horizon there through your joint and make sure that the O-ring is staying in the blue lines I mentioned. This, like I said, we're using this as an example. This is the bottom of the next piece. So there's one line that they put across this when they had it polished before they took it apart. The next joint up will have 2 lines side by side across it, and the next one would have 3 lines. That's just another indicator to let you know that you do have the correct pieces together. And basically we're trying to say with that wider line that one part of the line should touch part of it on the other side once it's together. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put our clamp wrench up in place, tighten it up, and then we're going to tighten it the rest of the way with that and the rubber mallet. Next thing we're going to do is give one final tightening by hand, trying to get the blue lines matched up. I'm just slightly past the blue line, and now I'm going to take a rubber mallet. I'm going to give it a final wrap and make sure that it's seated home. Now we're going to feel for any kind of a step or anything that could actually shave on packing as it comes through the packing set. You're always going to want to make sure that you at least shine some with some sandpaper. I know we've had issues like that. A lot of people are putting these together and they're not dressing the joints, and then they don't have any kind of longevity with their packing. So you always want to make sure that you don't feel anything when you're coming across that can catch your fingernail. One way of checking it is with an older pair of pantyhose or something, running across there. If there's anything that's going to catch that packing, you want to make sure that you get rid of it before you put it in operation. The blue lines that we indicated earlier, they put a straight line across the joint after we polish it. Like I say, in this case, we're getting this tighter than we did here on the polisher. So the lines are slightly offset. That's why you will have a little bit of step. But like I say, you want to make sure that you do sand that step down or file it if needed, and then sand it, because you've got to make sure that that's not going to be catching on anything as it goes through that packing set. On this side, this lower piece is what's sticking out proud of the other piece. So when you file, you're going to want to make sure that you basically concentrate on that piece as you work your way around. Of course, the file only cuts one way, so only on the push stroke. I'm getting just enough there to where once I get down and I touch that other edge, then that's where I'm going to cut off with that. They say you want to make sure you keep your file cleaned out, because if you don't, there's any kind of a piece of debris in there will put scratches on your piston that you'll have a hard time getting out. You want to go with the shape of the piston. You don't want to file flat spots. You want to go with the shape of it as you go around. I've been filing on this. This was the side sticking out proud. So when I put my file on there, I'm mostly on that piece, and I'm overlapping just enough that I'll know when I get to that other piece. Once I've taken this down a little bit and I'm starting to leave some markings up here on this piece, that's when I know I'm right down to that spot where with some sandpaper, it's going to go the rest of the way. So that's what I'm looking for, so that I don't take any more off than I absolutely have to, because you want to keep your ODs as close to original size as you can. But in this case, the other side, it's the upper piece that's sticking a little bit proud. What that is your play in your threads. Naturally, they can't be the exact same size or they would never go together. So that little bit of offset is no doubt from, it's just up against one side of that thread versus the other. It's hard to keep it really dead center. So as you go around, like I say, once you start putting marks on both sides of it, then it would be time to get out the sandpaper. So that's what we'll do next. And I'll probably use this file to back up my sandpaper. Instead of just shoe shining, it'll actually give it some backing for it. So we'll do that next. This is 180 grit sandpaper that I'm using. Of course, you'd work your way all the way around the piece. Now I'm going to take some 180 and shoe shine. You want to go in progressively finer grits of sandpaper. In this case, I started with 180. If you had a worse case, you may have some file scratches to get out. You might want to start with 80 grit and then go to 120 and then 180. In this case, I kept my file clean, so there wasn't any deep scratches. So 180 would do that, and now I'm following it with 400 grit. And now I'm going to use the 3M Scotch-Brite. Now after the final finish, you can see that the surrounding surface pretty well matches just what I've got there. And you don't feel any edge that'll catch on your packing seals or anything else. We're not wasp-wasted and we don't have any edge sticking out. That's what you're going for. Thank you for watching the video today. I hope this helps when next time you put a multi-piece piston together. If you have any other further questions, you can call us at 765-388-9330. I'm extension 2028 and Chris is 2030.